The siren's shriek tore through the sanctum of Council Administrator Telvan's slumber, a blade of crimson light in the velvet dark. It was the hour of deep cycle repose, when even a civilization spanning a quarter of the galaxy holds its breath, precisely when fate chooses to strike. Jolted from his platform, Telvan's four hands fumbled for the communicator, its pulsating urgency a drumbeat of doom against his palm. This interruption, he hissed into the void, had best herald a cataclysm. The voice of his aide was a strained thread of sound. "Sir, the morning light, the Orion spur, it has found something." A coldness, sharper than the vacuum between stars, seized Telvan's twin hearts. The Orion spur was the galaxy's final sigh, a graveyard of silent stars, scoured by drones for 50 millennia. The grand cartography was complete. Nothing remained but echoes. What corpse could a scout possibly exhume to justify this violation of peace? "Transmit the data," Telvan commanded, his voice hollow. The holographic display bloomed above his device, a river of sterile figures. A standard yellow star. 8 orbiting rocks. Then, the third world's spectral signature. The data stream wasn't a report, it was a detonation. Oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere. Hydrosphere dominated by liquid water. The electromagnetic cacophony of radio waves. The mechanical fingerprints of artificial satellites. The chemical stench of industrial effluent. And beneath it all, the screaming, undeniable truth, genetic markers. A perfect match for the foundational codes of 47 established colony worlds. The air vanished from Telvan's chamber. His manipulator limbs went slack. The words were a breath, stolen by wonder and dread. They found it. Gods of the void, they found Earth. Like, subscribe, share, and comment below. This is the story you won't want to experience alone. 2 standard hours later, the Galactic Council Chamber, a cavernous arena built to humble gods and host the voices of 800 species, thrummed with a silence more deafening than any roar. Every bioluminescent seat, every hovering disk, every ancient stone bench was occupied. News had propagated through the quantum-entangled networks like a psychic fever. The myth, the ghost, the progenitor. Was it flesh? Council Speaker Moravaith, a Velnari whose 3 centuries of leadership were etched in the patient lines of her face, called the emergency session to order. Her voice, when it came, was the sound of tectonic plates shifting. Administrator Telvan claims the scout vessel has located the mythical homeworld. We shall adjudicate the evidence. Telvan stepped into the central well, the gravity of 1 billion gazes upon him. With a gesture, he made Earth manifest. It hung above the chamber floor, a sublime marble of blue and white and swirling green, backdropped by the infinite black. A collective inhalation swept the room. "The Orion Spur," Telvan announced, the words echoing. The planet designated Earth is not only present, it is alive. The next sequence of images ignited a silent panic. City grids burned like captured galaxies on the night side. Continental scars of agriculture, metallic insects tracing lines across oceans and through clouds. Inhabited, Telvan continued, the word await. By humans, billions, they have forged a technological civilization in utter isolation. Electricity, fission, ballistic missiles, and, he paused, the next truth, a weapon he had to fire. They have achieved Nuclear fission, weaponized. Thousands of warheads. Yield sufficient to sterilize their biosphere multiple times over. The chamber erupted. The decorum of millennia shattered. A cacophony of clicks, roars, and harmonic shrieks filled the air. Translation systems glitching under the onslaught. Impossible. No species climbs that cliff without a guide. They are a plague waiting to be uncorked. Moravit's raised limb eventually quelled the storm. If this is truth, she intoned, each syllable heavy as a dying star, we face an ontological crisis. Our histories state the ancients fled Earth 70,000 years ago, seeded the colonies, and vanished. We presume them extinct, not hibernating. A new figure rose, a mountain of threat and polished scale. Commander Throck of the Kazathi, a warrior species whose very presence spoke of contained violence. Their weaponry, he rumbled, the sound vibrating in chests. Is it a threat? The threat is not in their aim, but in their existence, Telvin replied. They are a chaos variable, a species that rediscovered the power of sunfire, unsupervised in a century. What happens when they take the next step, when they look outward? The cries for quarantine, for enforced stagnation, rose again. Let them simmer in their own atmosphere until they evolve beyond such toys. And if they evolve past us while we watch, another countered, Moravaith's decision cut through the din. We will send a delegation, a first contact vessel. We shall meet these children of legend and measure their souls. Only then will destiny be chosen. Who? Demanded Throck. Moravaith did not hesitate. The harmonious endeavor, Captain Zera. The vote was a formality. The galaxy, trembling with fear and fascination, would reach out a hand, or a fist. Aboard the harmonious endeavor, Captain Zera absorbed her orders, with a cold knot in her stomach. The ship was a masterpiece of diplomacy, a tapestry of 12 species woven into a single crew. Her first officer, a Trallian named Kale, studied the briefing with analytical dismay. They are an unknown squared, Kale stated, his multifaceted eyes dimming. A pre-contact species is one variable. A relapsed ancient species, with buried instincts and forgotten trauma, that is an exponential risk. Zera, a Velnari like Moravaith, but forged in the frontier, watched the starfield streak by. Every species is a locked door at first meeting, Kale. We simply find the key. But this was different. For 6 days in transit, they devoured the fragmentary archives of ancient humanity. The records were patchworks of archaeology and myth, painting a portrait of breathtaking contradiction. They spoke of a species that built bonds across genetic chasms, treating unrelated creatures as kin, of merchants traversing stellar deserts for a promise, of warriors standing against oblivion for a concept called honor, of scientists sacrificing lifetimes to solve a single elegant equation. They sound exhausting, remarked the communications officer. They sound alive, Zera corrected, a strange warmth battling her dread. Remember, these are the progenitors of colonies we call allies. Treat this with the reverence of uncovering a genesis. As Sol's system resolved on their screens, the telemetry began screaming contradictions. The initial probe's data was a pale shadow. The third planet was enmeshed in a glittering shell of infrastructure. Thousands of satellites, rotating stations, the flicker of activity on its moon. A century from first orbit to this, it defied every developmental model. Then the proximity alarm tore through the bridge. Automated scan, Tactical reported, systems humming to defensive life. Origin, orbital platform, tracking our vector. The waveform. Captain, it's technology I cannot classify. Before Zera could form a command, the comm system lit up with an audio-only signal. The voice was calm, male, speaking in the linguistic variant English. Unidentified vessel, this is Earth Orbital Defense Network. State your intentions and hold position for diplomatic channel establishment. The bridge crew stared. This was not the reaction of a nascent world. This was the calm, procedural greeting of a doorman. Zera activated the translator. This is Captain Zera of the Galactic Council vessel Harmonious Endeavor. We come in peace for first contact, holding position as requested. A pause, stretching across light seconds. Then the voice returned. Its tone shifted, amiable, almost cheerful. Acknowledged Harmonious Endeavor. Stand by. We're, waking some people up. They're gonna be real excited to talk to you. Might take a minute. Can we get you anything while you wait? Refreshments? Systems check. In her decades of first contacts, Zera had been met with fear, awe, aggression, silence. Never hospitality. From a fully automated defense grid. No assistance required, Zera replied, her diplomatic composure fraying. We will wait. Great. Sit tight. Welcome to the neighborhood. The channel closed. For 47 minutes, the Harmonious Endeavor hung in the void, surrounded by a growing constellation of human vessels, work bees, freighters, agile patrol craft, all observing with what seemed like polite, coordinated curiosity. They're not afraid, Kale whispered, voicing the collective disbelief. They are curious. Zera watched the data feeds, the impossible pace of development, the calm professionalism of the traffic patterns. The humans had not just survived their dark age. They had thrived and built a complex, confident civilization in a galactic eye blink. And their first words were not, "Who are you?" but "Can we get you anything?" As a final set of docking coordinates arrived, not from a government hub, but from a private corporate station labeled Stellar Horizons, Captain Zera felt the last of her preconceptions dissolve. The training modules, the protocols, the 1,000 past encounters, none of it applied here. The airlock was about to open on a species that had looked into the abyss for 70,000 years, and instead of finding monsters, had apparently been waiting to throw a party. And Zera, her crew, and the entire watching galaxy were utterly unprepared for the storm of humanity that was about to embrace them. The airlock of Stellar Horizon Station hissed open, not with the ceremonial gravitas of a state function, but with the efficient sigh of a well-maintained commercial airlock. Captain Zera stepped across the threshold, her forearms held in a posture of neutral readiness, her pale blue skin reflecting the sterile station lighting. Behind her, the tableau of her crew unfolded, a living mosaic of galactic evolution. Kale, the Trallian, his insectoid form and cluster of sensory nodes twitching. The massive scaled bulk of Commander Throck, who had insisted on joining the diplomatic party. Representatives of 10 other species, each a unique testament to biology's wild ambition. They were met not by a rigid honor guard, but by a small crowd of humans. At their forefront stood Ambassador Chen Wei, her dark skin and short black hair framing a face lit by a smile of such genuine, unrestrained warmth it seemed to alter the station's atmosphere. Her eyes held no fear, no calculation of threat, only a sparkling, overwhelming curiosity. "Captain Zera," Chen said, her voice clear, her English paced for the translators. "Welcome. She extended a hand. Zira, after a microsecond of hesitation, reached out one of her primary manipulators. The human grip was firm, the skin warm and dry. The contact was shockingly direct, bypassing layers of protocol. It felt less like a diplomatic gesture and more like a connection. "The pleasure is ours," Chen continued, her gaze sweeping over the assembled aliens with unconcealed delight. "Welcome to what we very much hope is the beginning of a beautiful friendship." She led them through corridors bustling with human activity. Crew members in utilitarian jumpsuits paused, not to gawk in terror, but to wave, to smile, to raise small devices, smartphones, the database supplied, to capture the moment. The station hummed with vitality, a testament to a species that built not just for function, but with an undercurrent of audacious ambition. The reception hall was an exercise in chaotic preparation. It was vast, segmented into zones with varying atmospheric compositions and gravitational settings, each clearly signed. Tables groaned under a staggering array of food and drink, colorful plant matter, synthesized gels, clear liquids, and steaming vessels. Chairs and perches of bewildering variety dotted the space. "We weren't sure about, well, anything," Chen admitted with a laugh that held no embarrassment. "So we prepared options. The food is all vegetarian or lab-grown. We didn't want to accidentally serve someone's cousin. The drinks are everything from water to a few nutrient broths we theorized might be compatible. Please, scan everything. Tell us what's wrong. We've only had 2 days." Zara's science officer, a meticulous self named Rin, stepped forward with his scanner. After a moment he looked up, his frills pulsating in astonishment. "The nutritional profiles, they are tailored. Not perfectly, but with clear extrapolations from our published biological data. This is thoughtful." "We did our best," Chen said, and the modesty seemed authentic. As the crew tentatively dispersed, the scene evolved into a surreal symposium. The Kazathi warrior, Throck, a creature born and bred for warfare, found himself the fixed point in a new kind of orbit. A small human child, no more than 5, escaped her mother's grasp and trotted to a stop directly before the 3-meter-tall wall of scales and muscle. She looked up, her head tilting back, her eyes wide saucers of wonder. "Are you a dragon?" she asked, her voice a tiny bell in the hushed space around them. Throck stared down. He had faced plasma fire and void predators. He had never been disarmed by a question. "I do not know this, dragon," he rumbled, the sound softening despite itself. "They're from stories," the child explained, as if to a slightly slow student. "They have scales. Can I touch yours? They look pretty." A human woman rushed over, flustered. "Maya, we don't just ask to touch people." She looked up at Throck, her expression apologetic. "I'm so sorry. She's at that age where everything is interesting and nothing is dangerous." Throck's primary combat brain processed the exchange. No threat, no reprimand for the child's breach of safety, just an apology for a lapse in manners. He slowly, carefully lowered himself to one knee, bringing his formidable head level with the girl's. "You may touch," he said, his voice a low avalanche, "but with care. The edges are sharp." Small, impossibly soft fingers traced a scale on his forearm. The child's face erupted in a sunrise of joy. "They're warm," she declared. "Thank you, Mr. Dragon." Something deep within Throck, a mechanism long dormant behind layers of tactical programming and warrior ethos, shifted. He felt a profound, unsettling urge to ensure no harm ever came to this fragile, fearless creature. It was a tactical vulnerability of the highest order, and it felt pleasant. Across the hall, other connections sparked. The communications officer was deep in a technical debate with a human linguist about semantic context. The medical officer exchanged anatomical hollows with a human doctor, both marveling at the other's evolutionary solutions. An engineer argued good-naturedly with a human technician about the station's efficient, if unorthodox, coolant routing. Ambassador Chen guided Zira to a quieter corner, offering her a cup of fragrant liquid. "Tea," she said, "a cultural staple. We think it's safe." Zira sipped. It was complex, bitter, then sweet. "It is agreeable." She paused, choosing her words. "Your preparedness is unprecedented. Most species are in defensive shock at this moment." Chen's smile turned wry. "Captain, I should explain. Earth is not a single polity. We have 197 sovereign nations, multiple competing ideologies, economies, and governments. Our global body, the United Nations, is more of a very loud debate club with occasional flashes of brilliance." Zara felt a chill. "You achieve spacefaring civilization without unity? How do you coordinate? How do you not tear yourselves apart?" "With difficulty," Chen laughed. "We argue, we compete. Sometimes we fight. But we also collaborate when the stakes are high enough. Facing the universe together seems to qualify." She grew more serious. "There's something else. When this news breaks fully, you will be the center of attention for over 8 billion intensely curious beings. We are a lot." The number was staggering. It was the population of entire stellar federations. Zara's mind reeled at the logistical, social, and diplomatic tsunami that number represented. The reception stretched for hours, a living tapestry of cross-species interaction. Humans, Zara observed, communicated with their whole bodies. Gestures, facial expressions, laughter that was too loud, arguments that were too passionate. They had no concept of proper diplomatic distance, often stepping closer to see an alien's features. They were, by galactic standards, gloriously undignified. Then the music started. A human set up an array of archaic instruments and began to play something called jazz. The sound was chaotic, a structured rebellion, full of improvised runs and clashing harmonies that somehow resolved into breathtaking cohesion. Humans began to move, a rhythmic, flowing motion, dancing. "You dance at diplomatic first contact?" Zara asked, utterly bewildered. "We dance at most things worth remembering," Chen said. "It's how we express joy that words can't hold. Would you like to try?" "I do not know how." "Neither do most of us," Chen laughed, a sound like shattering crystal. "You just move, however it feels." Watching the humans surrender to the rhythm, Zara understood a fundamental truth. Humanity did not navigate life with cautious algorithmic prediction. They plunged forward, guided by intuition and emotion, building the bridge as they walked upon it. It was terrifying. It was also vibrantly, contagiously alive. Commander Throck approached her, the small human child now perched carefully on his shoulder, drawing patterns on his cranial scales with a stylus she'd been given. "These beings are a profound danger," he murmured, his voice for Zara alone. Zara tensed. "You perceive a threat? Their defenses?" "No," Throck said, his great eye watching the child's concentrated face. "The danger is they make you care. In 300 years of warfare, I have never instinctively sought to protect something outside my species. I would incinerate a battalion for this one. They bypass all defenses. They make you family, without consent. Zira looked around. She saw a human artist sketching the self-science officer, capturing the flutter of his frills. She saw a politician from a nation called Canada, patiently explaining the concept of hockey to a perplexed Trollian. She saw the shared smiles, the offered food, the unguarded curiosity. Throck was right. Humanity's weapon was not in their orbit. It was in their open hands and unshielded hearts. As the event wound down, Chen's expression grew solemn. "Captain, I have to ask, why now, after all this time?" "We found you by accident," Zira admitted, the truth feeling stark. "An automated scout in a region we had declared empty. We have been searching for 50,000 years. We had given up hope that Earth was anything but dust and myth." Chen absorbed this, the weight of millennia settling on her. 50,000 years of silence. She met Zara's gaze. "What happens now?" "That is complex," Zara said, choosing stark honesty. "Your world possesses technologies we strictly regulate. Nuclear arms, unrestrained genetic editing, nascent artificial intelligence. Many on the council will argue for quarantine until you mature. Centuries, perhaps millennia." Chen's warmth didn't vanish, but it solidified into something steely. "We cannot unlearn what we know. We will not halt our progress because it makes distant powers anxious." "I understand," Zara said, "but you must also understand. If you are confirmed as the source world, the legal progenitor of 47 colony world civilizations, you have dormant claims to territories spanning a quarter of the galaxy. That makes you not just a new species, but a geopolitical supernova." Chen shook her head, a very human gesture of negation. "We are not interested in claiming empires. Those colonies are their own people now. But," her voice softened, "we would very much like to meet our family." The word hung in the air. Family. Not subjects, not resources, not political assets. Family. Later, on the bridge of the departing harmonious endeavor, Zara compiled her preliminary report. The data streams were already flooding the galactic net. Human music, art, news broadcasts, their unvarnished history of war and peace, folly and triumph. The galaxy was consuming it with a rapt, addictive hunger. In the council chamber 3 days later, chaos reigned. Speaker Moravith watched the bedlam from her dais, having surrendered to the tide. The Preservation faction, led by the icy representative Kulan, seized the narrative. The evidence is incontrovertible. Kulan displayed images of Earth's nuclear fireballs. They are children playing with stellar fire. By council law, a species maintaining weapons of mass destruction cannot be granted membership. They are aggressive, divided, emotionally volatile. They are unworthy. Then a new voice cut through. Representative Mira of the Proxima colony, a human, albeit one adapted to alien suns over 40 millennia. She stood, a living bridge between then and now. "How many of you," she asked the chamber, her voice ringing, "had unified worlds when you first reached for the stars? How many had spotless environmental records? How many had never known war?" She let the silence answer. "You were given grace. You were allowed to grow. Why deny our own ancestors the same right?" She played excerpts from Zara's visit, the child and Throck, the shared tea, the joyful chaos. They are not a threat. They are a gift, one we have waited 40,000 years to receive. The debate raged, but outside the chamber, humanity's cultural broadcast was doing its own work. A human musical group called the Beatles charted on 1,000 worlds. Human films, with their raw emotionality, fascinated beings who communicated in pure data. Human philosophers, like Dr. Sarah Martinez, spoke not of perfection, but of the dignified, endless struggle to be better. "We are not proud of our darkness," she told a galactic audience of billions, "but we do not hide from it. The struggle is the point." The council was deadlocked. The colonies convened privately, wrestling with their own existential dilemma. "Earth is our ancestor, not our parent," Mira argued to her fellow colonial representatives. "But they are alone no longer. And if their rate of progress continues, they will surpass us all in a blink. Do we fear them or guide them?" It was Commander Throck, the warrior, who offered the unexpected, pivotal perspective during the open council debate. He showed not just human violence, but human compassion. Strangers rescuing one another from ruins. Nations aiding former enemies after disasters. "You fear they will choose chaos," he boomed. "I have learned they have a greater capacity. They choose. They have had the power to destroy their world for a century, and they have chosen every day not to. That is not the weakness of a child. It is the hard-won strength of a survivor. Our galaxy is peaceful, yes. It is also stagnant. They are not a threat to our peace. They are a challenge to our stagnation." The preliminary vote was called. Allow Earth to formally apply for membership, or enforce immediate quarantine. The result was a tremor that shook the foundations of galactic politics. 412 in favor, 388 against. Earth had cleared the first threshold. But the true trial, the ancient, grueling trial of worthiness, lay ahead. 3 tests, designed to break civilized species, awaited a world that had never learned the meaning of the word impossible. And the entire galaxy leaned forward, holding its breath, to see if the prodigal species would burn or shine. The summons from the Galactic Council arrived not as a decree, but as a gauntlet thrown across the stars. Earth was permitted to apply for membership. But first, it must pass the trial of worthiness, an ancient, tripartite crucible that had broken species far more unified and civilized. Most aspirants required decades, even centuries, to navigate its psychological and ethical labyrinths. Ambassador Chen received the dossier in the United Nations chamber. The air thick with the ozone scent of tension and ambition. She surveyed the representatives of humanity's fractured, glorious tapestry. "They have set 3 challenges," she announced, her voice cutting through the quiet. "A diplomatic simulation, a technological puzzle, and a crisis response. We must pass all 3. "The time frame?" asked the American Secretary of State, her fingers steepled. "As long as we need," Chen replied. A fate, characteristically human smile touched her lips. "However, I've informed Captain Zira we will begin tomorrow." The reaction was a wave of incredulous laughter, sharp with anxiety and a spark of defiant pride. Typical human arrogance, the more cautious thought. Typical human confidence, the bold countered. In that moment, the division itself became their unity. They would face the galaxy's judgment not as a polished monolith, but as what they were, a chaotic, passionate chorus. The diplomatic simulacrum. Aboard the harmonious endeavor, in a holographic chamber that could conjure entire realities, humanity's chosen 12 diplomats faced their first trial. The scenario materialized around them, a resource-rich trinary star system, claimed by 3 distinct, desperate species: the aquatic gel, the crystalline core, the methane-breathing viren. Tensions flared. Warships shimmered into existence on sensors. The mandate: broker a peace before the system drowned in blood. Council observers, including Zera and the critical Kulan, watched from a silent gallery. Standard galactic diplomacy was a slow, stately minuet of protocol, of indirect language and face-saving concessions built over weeks. Humanity began with a cacophony. The Brazilian diplomat snorted a laugh when the Gel ambassador made an outlandish initial demand for all 3 asteroid belts. "That's a beautiful fantasy," he said, not unkindly. "Now, let's talk about what you actually need versus what you want." The Indian delegate, ignoring the staggered silence of the simulated aliens, pointed at a holographic planet. "You, core, require the heavy metals on the 3rd rocky body. Fine, take it. Gel, you need the cometary ice in the outer belt. Have it. Viren, the gas giant's upper atmosphere is perfect for your harvesters." Why does anyone need to own the space? Why not shared sovereignty with usage rights? That violates millennia of interstellar property law. The Viren simulation protested, its vents flaring. "So amend the law," the American delegate said with a shrug that seemed to encompass all of human history. "We do it all the time. It's messy, it works." For 6 hours, the observers witnessed what appeared to be a catastrophic failure of decorum. The Russian and Japanese delegates argued fiercely over negotiation tactics. The Nigerian and French representatives debated resource distribution with rising volume. They interrupted each other, used sarcasm, appealed to emotion, and once, the Kenyan delegate brought the entire process to a halt to ensure all parties had access to clean water, a fundamental need the simulation's architects had considered a mere background variable. Through the noise, the chaos, the utter disregard for proper form, a structure emerged. A complex, messy, living agreement was built in real time. The system would become a jointly administered commonwealth with rotating oversight, shared defense, and prioritized resource access based on demonstrated need, not historical claim. The simulation faded. The observation gallery was tomb silent. "A farce," Kulan finally hissed. "They trampled every protocol. They showed no respect for process." Zera studied the results scrolling on her screen. The Gel, Core, and Viren, their simulated consciousnesses modeled on real psychology, had not only accepted the deal, but their projected long-term stability indices had soared. "They achieved the goal," she said quietly. "A peaceful, stable resolution that satisfied core needs. Is that not the essence of diplomacy?" "Diplomacy is the process," Kulan insisted. "Without the structure, you have anarchy." "Or," Zera countered, a new thought dawning, "you have creativity." Perhaps we have spent so long perfecting how we speak that we have forgotten why. The result was logged, unresolved. Humanity had not passed, they had disrupted. The second test was a relic, a smooth, featureless metallic sphere recovered from a dead civilization 100 millennia gone. Its purpose was known to the archivists, but sealed. The task: determine its function through principles alone. Most species took months of collaborative, consensus-driven research. Earth sent 20 scientists and engineers. They commandeered a neutral lab, and within hours had fractured into 4 competing teams. Team 1, led by a physicist from MIT, believed it was a quantum power source. Team 2, from Shanghai's Techno-Artisan Guild, was convinced it was a neural communication device. Team 3, a joint European-Japanese collective, theorized a weapon of dimensional manipulation. Team 4, a rogue band of Australian and Icelandic engineers, decided it was probably an artistic artifact or a child's toy, and began testing for aesthetic resonance patterns. They did not collaborate. They competed. They hid notes, sabotaged each other's sensor calibrations with subtle tweaks, and poached members with promises of glory. The observers were appalled. This was not science. It was intellectual barbarism. On the 4th day, a junior engineer on Team 2, a young woman from Seoul, discovered a faint harmonic resonance when the sphere was exposed to a specific electromagnetic frequency. Her team leader ordered secrecy. But during a shared meal, burdened by the sheer excitement of the find, she whispered the key to a friend on Team 4. Knowledge, once freed, became a contagion. Within hours, the cutthroat competition evaporated. Whiteboards were rolled between camps. Data streams merged. The race was forgotten in the face of the puzzle.